There is bad news everywhere about security incidents, and rarely are we presented with answers and solutions that can give you confidence your business will not be the next headline. If you have felt that nagging concern before, you have come to the right spot. In the next 10 minutes, we will demystify cybersecurity and show you how together we can make your organization more secure, resilient, and turn security into a continual improvement process and a strategic asset. This session will highlight 4 key areas. When combined, will show you how to navigate the complex world of cybersecurity and give you, your executive team, and your board of directors, if you have one, confidence that you are improving the security posture of your organization and reducing the risk of becoming the next headline. Here are the 4 types of challenges we see organizations face when they're trying to address cybersecurity. They struggle where to start, or they don't really know where to start. Security initiatives can be very overwhelming. They struggle to make progress. What is the next priority? How do you assign the next priority? Who is supposed to take action and by when? They struggle to see the progress they have made. Are we moving the needle? Have we actually made an impact? Or what's the next action that will have the biggest impact to mitigating risk? And finally, they struggle to prove or report on the progress. For example, sending a report to insurance, auditors, executives, or our board that are sponsoring the security initiative. Proof of progress and reducing risk is critical. All right, before we dig in, I'm Nate. This is James from Mytech Partners. Welcome to this Mytech Brief episode on our cybersecurity leadership and advisory services, what we call CLAS. All right, James, can you provide a preview of how we solve these 4 key challenges of the company's face with cybersecurity initiatives?
Thanks, Nate. First of all, addressing this type of challenge is a shift. You got to get away from a one-time project execution mentality to become an operational function. And that's what we want to do. As part of our CLAS program, we're going to engage with you regularly, like monthly or quarterly, whatever works, to guide you through an approach that we believe makes sense. And this is what it looks like. We want to start with establish a baseline. You got to know where you're at and to know where you're going. And then we want to take some actionable steps. We need to define how to make the progress. And then we want to measure and reduce the risk in real time. You got to see that progress and how it's impacting your organization. Finally, we want to simplify compliance. We want to simplify how you can report to your stakeholders. You got to demonstrate the progress that you've made.
That's awesome, James. So let's get to the first section, which is establishing a baseline. For this illustration, we are starting with the standard framework. We have no compliance or regulatory obligations or requirements in mind. So we're trying to speak to nearly any organization that you could be making progress on cybersecurity initiatives, even if you don't have any particular regulation. So we start with CIS controls. It's a standard framework that allows for the flexibility to navigate the unique complexities that each individual organization faces. So I like to start with that and put this in context. If you're looking for a specific regulation, we will show you some of that later in other sessions. But for this session, we're speaking to those who don't have any particular regulation requirement and how we can work together and make progress in that regard. So take it away, James.
Yeah, we love CIS. CIS is free, it's open source, it's done by an internationally well-known set of people that we believe and trust. And one of the things we'd like to do is, like, if you don't know where you're going, you've already made some headway, we want to start off by saying, okay, let's go take a look at what CIS can do for you. So we have to start from somewhere. We have to start understanding our baseline. We go through a series of assessments, right? And then this is how we work with you to identify your specific business and how it works. So in this case, you could say your health or technology or something like that. And then we do some basic questions. And then we would go to some place like, how is your technology being serviced? Could be by us, could be by anybody, could be in-house. Often we like to partner with people. And then from there, we can say, like, hey, if we don't have another one to go with, we like using CIS as your go-to baseline. Once we do that, lets us define a lot of really good best practices. They're really simple, plain language that you can always go look up on your own. I'm not going to go through the rest of them right now, but what happens then is you can, submit this. This platform that we love to use is going to basically pull this all together and figure out, what do you look like now? How does things look? How do you stack up? How do you compare? In this environment, we've gone through a lot of the assessments and pulled out some things, but maybe things have been revised, right? And we want to go take another look, right? So what's constantly we hearing about all the time, Nate, with the new technology all the time, people coming up.
AI is generative.
Yeah, right. Everybody needs to know about generative AI. How do you secure generative AI, right? And then we would go through the same process. We'd start asking you some basic questions about your use of this technology. Are people required to do things? Do you keep an inventory? And that sort of thing. And as we go through that, we can answer some of the questions that make sense for how your organization is approaching this new and emerging technology. Once we submit that, we can revise how things look. But even better, we go to our clients and say, hey, you know what? Let's look at how to put in a policy that talks about generative AI. Let's take a look at what are some of the things that we should consider. And in the assessment we did, maybe you do have an awareness program, but maybe you're not taking inventories. Maybe you're not getting approval from your employees before they start using it, right? So when we find something like that, we want to figure out what to do next. And this is where we bring forward a task-centric approach. Okay, now we know we want to think about AI. We want to build a policy. We know we got some gaps. How do we solve those gaps? This is what we do. We want to bring up a list of some common sense things that you can take practical action on without being a cybersecurity nerd. Hey, you got access to a nerd to answer the questions, but we're going to lay it out for you as best we can to get you started, and then be able to say, hey, let's start looking at this in the short, medium, or long term. Let's assign this to somebody. Let's get this ball rolling.
So, all right, you're starting to jump a little bit ahead to our next thing about defining actionable steps, but I also want to go back to the business assessments are one part of establishing a baseline. And by the way, I love the policy because that's where a lot of organizations struggle, is actually building policies. And so the fact that by the assessments that you do, it basically builds a default policy and it shows you where your gaps are. So I love that. But another area that's really important is vulnerability scanning and those assessments. Can you touch on that? And then let's go into looking at action items.
Yeah. Absolutely. Technology vulnerability scanning is just, it's this black hole, right? Like all the IT people are telling you about little bits and pieces of things. What are you supposed to do? Really what you need to do is get to a high level understanding of what actions I need to take. How does this affect my business? How do I make some decisions? Sometimes we can't fix everything. We got to know what's out there to make those good decisions. So tools like this can incorporate, we pull in real-time feedback from your systems and put this in here in a way that we can like condense and prioritize and say, hey, you know what, this looks like a problem for you. Let's figure out how we can address that. And that shows up in your overall risk consideration model. Like, okay, we're doing okay with the vulnerability scan. We got to do some other stuff. Oh, we got some systems. We got to make some decisions on how we're going to approach that. And we can help, again, build that plan to move yourself forward.
And what I like, and just to illustrate that before we move on to the action items, is that vulnerability scanning is something that changes. It could change tomorrow from what it is today because some new vulnerability becomes discovered and published. And so one of the things I know can be frustrating is that you try and make progress on vulnerability scanning, and then the next time more stuff's there because that's the nature of it. So, but it's important. That's why it's really important that you regularly are engaging and regularly mitigating the different risks that show up. So great. So we've got a baseline. We have known vulnerabilities that has real time over time. We've also done some business assessments that are our priorities. What are the pieces we have in place? Now we want to make progress. How do we define those actionable steps based on the goals and priorities that the client has decided upon to make for a personal program?
Yeah, we're able to adapt our approach based on what you think you need. Now, obviously, we're going to come in there if you're kind of like a lot of people, and this is a giant elephant, and which bite do I take first? We're happy to walk through that with you. But a lot of times we can just break it down into pieces. Well, where are concerns for you? Where things are coming out? Or we can look at it from a severity perspective. We can say, hey, look, we really think it's a big deal that you don't have a remote access policy. Well, that sounds scary. How do I build a remote access policy? Well, here are some practical steps, right? And the method that we like to use is say, hey, let's not be afraid of this. If this is what we're going to all agree that we need to get done, we're going to start that process. We're going to pick a time when we're going to get it done, assign it to some people. We'll make some estimations. We'll go through it. We might even write some specific notes, set ourselves a task to come back and repeat it. But here are some practical guides, with or without the consultant present, that you can always take. We, of course, put you in here, let you see this, let you digest it, take it to other people in your organization. And then as you're building on this, you can see immediately what the score impact's going to be once you get this done. And there's numerous ways we can slice this by severity. We can slice this by kind of the policy we're dealing with, by plan, assignment, potential framework items. So it's not all of these are directly related to our CIS controls. A lot of them are just generic best practices. But we can narrow down and say, let's really drill into CIS or other ones as well.
What I like what you showed earlier too is that you were in a policy and you saw a gap in a policy and you were able to create a task from the policy. But then when you showed the vulnerability scanning, I also saw that if there's a vulnerability there, you can create an action item from there too. So you don't have to, you can, wherever you are, you can assign a task and identify that this is something we want to work on and create that task moving forward and assign it to the right people.
That's exactly right. We want to make sure your eyes got to stay on the ball. What's the next step? We want to really make sure that's clear.
All right, so now that we've actually, again, this is solving a very common problem of just, you come out of a meeting where you're engaging and you agree on progress, but then you don't actually assign something, assign it to a person, assign a due date, estimate and be realistic about the amount of time you think it's going to take. Those are all things that prevent people from sometimes making progress. And so we've solved that problem. But now, how do you actually either measure risk in real time or to be able to see the progress that you've been making and or model progress over time? Like if I make this adjustment, where does that impact me? How can I look at that holistically across my initiative?
Yeah, risk is what it's all about. We have to look at this from a risk perspective in the end to show the organization is making the right investments in this process, in the technologies, in the consulting, and in whatever. So we really like to try and model that out. This tool is going to take all of our assessments and build an idea of where risk is. We heat map classically, this upper right red corner, we don't like it. We want to move it down into the left, into the green spaces. And that's not practical. We're never going to eliminate all risk. But what we want to do is we want to start with like where we believe you're at right now and where we think we can get you. Is some residual risk will always exist, but is it acceptable? Have we moved the organization to a more risk sensitive posture? And a lot of times you can just drill into this then and say, okay, and it's one thing, James, to show me the heat map, but what do we do? Well, we're going to help you model what that risk would look like if we put those controls in. We're going to understand, is this something that really matters to your organization? What tolerance do you have to accept this or not? And then let's say that we do decide it's time to do something about this. We're not going to accept it. We're not going to be able to avoid it. We have to do something to mitigate that risk. We can assign owners. We can put it in progress. We can do all that. And then again, what do I do? We have the task list built out, ready to go. We can say, you know what, to fix this risk, here are the things that we haven't started yet. Let's take a look at those. The other thing we want to do is, the heat map's nice, but sometimes we also just need to list it all out. That's where tools like this let you be able to like drill in a lot and filter and sort and find where is risk in our organization. How can I bring this forward and show this to stakeholders within my organization?
Yeah, that's great. So I think, I love the heat mapping, and it kind of, I know that's something where clients that we've worked with, they're like, gosh, we're doing all this work. Are we making progress? And I think that heat map gives a nice visual of saying, look, we want to move you from the upper side to the lower, upper right to the lower left into the green. I also think where this is really important, and I think why, again, the operational process versus a one-time project is important, is because regulations will change over time, vulnerabilities will change over time, your organization's priorities will change over time, and so engaging on a regular basis and keeping this front and center is a way in which you can continually make progress in that regard. All right, finally, so James, I'm gonna put a scenario at you, and like those of you listening, this might be you, and so that's why I'm addressing it this way. So James, you are responsible for leading this cybersecurity initiative, and now your internal or external stakeholders, that could be auditors, the executive team, or your board of directors, want proof that the investment of time and money that they are making is worth it. What can you show me?
We really need to get them easy reporting. So this is in your hands when we do this one-click button reporting where it spits out something that says, hey, you know what? How are we progressing on our compliance? How are we doing on our progress on anything? We can also look at this in the context of overall risk. How have we done as far as assessing things and as far as progress in various security domains? Where are our gaps? Where are our weaknesses? What are we doing to move things forward? How are our vulnerability scanning? It's really about just trying to get that data regularly in front of people so that key decisions can be made and you can show over time that you paid attention to this.
All right, James. So I've got two things for you. One, like, how long did it take you? Because I know you had the reports ready to go to show them, but like, how long did it take you to actually generate those reports? Can you give me an illustration of how hard or easy that was?
Well, on the screen here, I got a button and I pressed the button, and the button generated the report in about 20 seconds.
So instead of spending hours, like a lot of people do, to help generate those reports, this whole program is designed to be able to give you easy access to that. So you can just click a button. Whenever that executive taps you on your shoulder and says, hey, can I see the latest report? You can go in and click that one button and you got your report. All right, James, I'm going to throw you another scenario. This is the second thing. Your executive team just found out that they need to work, that you need to also, in addition to CIS controls, they want you to work on PCI compliance. And they found out that one of our big customers is looking for a SOC 2 report. We've been working on CIS. What do we do now?
Easily enough, this tool is very dynamic. And so we go back to where we picked CIS before. There are a number of frameworks that we can go look at. You said SOC 2, there it is. You said things like, I think PCI.
PCI is another one.
Yep, credit card handling right there. And we just have to hit a couple of buttons, submit that, takes a second, everything's done. And now instead of one compliance framework, we've got 3. And when we want to go in there, we can take a look at any individual one to see our progress, see where we're at, see what we need to do to finish it. And as always, we can just press a button, and in a couple of seconds, we're going to have the report of how close we are, what fields we need to work on, and associated tasks that we can complete at any time that'll help us achieve that compliance objective that's been given to us.
That is awesome. That is one of the things that I think is really important, and that report just popped up, is that it's very dynamic, so you don't have to worry about, well, what if I'm not working on the right things? This allows you to work from a standard framework, or maybe you already have a regulatory framework, and then another one gets added, just like what I mentioned. And a lot of times that's coming from a big customer or a big client or a vendor that you work with, and it's forcing some of that.
We got to adapt.
We can adapt to it. All right. Thank you so much. So we hope you enjoyed this Mytech Brief episode on our cybersecurity, leadership, and advisory services, where we can help you solve 4 key challenges that we found every organization faces with cybersecurity. You struggle where to start. We can help you with that. We can help you make progress. We know that if you're struggling to see progress, we showed you how you can solve that problem. And we know that you struggle to prove or report on the progress. So if you feel this session was helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel for future Mytech content. And feel free to check out mytech.com for more resources on Microsoft 365, cybersecurity, digital productivity, strategic IT planning, and everything else we do to make IT easy for our clients. Thanks again for watching. We hope to see you again soon. Until then, be productive and stay secure.